Just before we get into this video, guys, I want to hit 10k by the end of the year, so if you enjoy the content and you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But let's get into today's video. So welcome back to another episode of my top 3 best / top 3 worst series. I did a poll on Twitter and I'm pretty sure the result was that you guys wanted to see the top 3 best, in my opinion, of the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith. Now for me, the Matt Smith era is kind of a weird one because I vividly remember it coming out, but it came out at a time that I think because I was at a certain age, I was more focused on stuff like GCSEs and starting college, that I don't really have that nostalgia towards it that I imagine quite a few people do. I think it was definitely around this point that my interest in Doctor Who, at least in the modern era, had started to wane, and I was much more invested into discovering the classic series. So whilst I do enjoy this era overall, and I definitely do enjoy Matt Smith, I just don't really feel all that much to this era overall. But that's not to say there aren't some great stories, there are also some crap ones, but in this one we're going to be talking about my personal top 3 favourites. As always, just my opinion, and it's in no particular order. So first and foremost, let's start off with Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone. This story always stands out to me, and I had the Series 5 Steelbook, the original release when it first came out. It was in like a greyish blue case and it had the cracking time on it. And this was the story, or these 2 episodes were the ones that I remember vividly going back to quite a bit. A lot of people talk about Blink and say that that's like the holy grail of Doctor Who. I personally don't agree with that. I think, yes, it's a very good story, but I wouldn't say it's like peak Doctor Who or anything. Blink is just essentially a one-off, novelty, gimmicky episode, which is fine, but this is a much more conventional Doctor Who style story featuring the Weeping Angels, and I think it really cemented the whole story arc of Series 5, and it really established where Moffat was going to try and take the series. Yes, there had been indications before in the previous 3 episodes that, you know, we're going to do a cracking time thing and there's a few plot threads set up, but I feel like this is the first story where you fully get to see Moffat's style come to the forefront, at least as a showrunner. What I think is also very impressive about this story is the fact that this was actually the first story that Matt Smith and Karen Gillan recorded in their respective roles, and the fact that they are pretty much flawless throughout it just goes to show how good they actually are. I know it's kind of standard practice that the Doctor or the new Doctor won't film their stories in order. It has happened before, but because of production order and stuff, I know Peter Davison was another one where they didn't film Castrovalva first. And I quite like the fact that they leave it a couple of episodes, so partway through the series you don't really notice those little ticks and quirks and them trying to figure out who the character is. But in Matt Smith's case, that's irrelevant anyway, because he just goes straight in at the deep end, and I feel like his Doctor is already fully formed by the time he steps onto the screen. And credit to Matt for that as well, because the pressure to be not only the youngest Doctor, but to take over from David Tennant and just fucking nail it is incredibly impressive. So hats off to you, or bow ties off, or fez off. That sounds more like an insult, doesn't it? Fez off. Karen Gillan, the same. I mean, there's less pressure with a companion, I feel, because it's a brand new character and you can kind of do whatever you want with it anyway, whereas the Doctor, you know, people know what they want from the Doctor. But Karen Gillan as well, especially with her chemistry with Matt, is just a joy to watch. I really like how creepy the Weeping Angels are in this story as well. They are a very creepy villain in general anyway, but they definitely feel like a threat, and it's also nice to see River Song. I really like some of the bits where they're walking through the forest and people are forgetting things, and it really sets up the mystery for the rest of the series. And overall, I would say out of the 2-part stories in Matt Smith's era, yes, he does have quite a few really good ones, but I think this is the one that stands out to me. Another thing that really stands out to me is Matt Smith's first episode, which of course is the 11th hour, and obviously people are going to be sick of me talking about it because whenever I talk about Matt Smith's era I always mention this, so I won't go over it too much, but I do have to mention it because it is very, very good. In terms of like a Doctor's first story, this is up there for me, as you will know if you've seen my ranking Doctor Who series where I speak about a Doctor's first story. Thing is with this one, it just throws you into the era. It just gets into the story. There's no establishing the world or the characters or a mystery element similar to something like Rose, for example. It treats the audience as like, well, you know what this is about at this point, so we're just going to throw you straight into it. But at the same time, it's also a type of episode where you don't necessarily have to have watched anything previously. You can get everything just from this episode anyway. And I really like that balance, and the fact that it's such a fast-paced story. Again, the performances are fantastic. I think the villain is really cool as well. I wouldn't say it's like a top-tier Doctor Who villain, but Prisoner Zero I thought was very effective in the scenes that he has. I really like the Atraxi as well, and that moment where Matt Smith is just throwing together his outfit, and then by the time he's put it on, he is the 11th Doctor now. He has established himself as the character, and it is a fantastic moment. I think the extended runtime really does help this story as well. It's only like an additional 15-20 minutes compared to a usual episode, but I think that really lets this episode breathe, just establish everything that it needs to. And then finally then, my last story, which I was debating not talking about this one because I just thought, is it technically an 11th Doctor story? But it is in his era, and I've got to say Day of the Doctor. See, the thing is with Day of the Doctor, is it the best episode ever? No. Is it the best multi-Doctor story? No. But the thing is, I still love it, and even though it is a bit of fan service, it isn't the biggest plot revelations in Doctor Who's history. It hasn't got the best moments in it or anything like that, but I just have so much joy watching it. Like, as a fan of Doctor Who, I just love everything about this story. I love the stuff with the War Doctor. I love the dynamic between David Tennant and Matt Smith. I love the stuff with the Zygons. I love seeing bits of the Time War, even though seeing the Time War isn't necessarily the best idea. I still appreciate that we get glimpses of it. I love the fact that Tom Baker comes back into it. I love the stuff with the paintings. I love the whole time travel or stasis cube thing that they say in it as well. There's a lot going on in this story, and you can pick holes in it. You can say this bit doesn't quite work, this plot thread doesn't quite work, that doesn't quite work here and there, and all this sort of stuff, or I wish they hadn't have shown that or done that. All that sort of stuff. You can nitpick this story, and I get why. But when I watch it, I don't think in critical wingy media review mode. I think of it as Alex, the Doctor Who fan. And when I do that, I just sit and enjoy it, and I don't think about the things in it that, yeah, aren't perfect. There's very few stories where I do just watch it and just enjoy it for what it is. Most of the time now, because of doing this and because of some of the stuff that I did in college as well, where I'm talking about TV and film, like, I tended to take them for a piece of media as opposed to a bit of entertainment that you're meant to just enjoy and take it for what it is. Yes, it does feel like it's more of a celebration of the previous, well, the modern era of Doctor Who, as opposed to all of Doctor Who, even though there are references there, of course. Like I mentioned, Tom Baker appears, and all the other Doctors do as well. Do they technically? Well, yeah, they do. It's clips and found footage and stuff, but that moment where they save Gallifrey is awesome. You even get a glimpse of Peter Capaldi as well, which fucking blew my mind at the time. I will never forget the moment that I sat down and watched this story for the first time, and I think I've said it in videos before, but this to me felt like the last time where I was so excited to watch a new episode of Doctor Who. I don't really think I've had that feeling since. I've had times where, yeah, I'm really excited to see this episode, and the next time trailer looks pretty cool, and I'm curious to see the second part of this story and what have you, but I've never managed to recapture that feeling of I cannot wait to just sit and watch this and just absorb it. As much as I have given Moffat shit over the years on this channel, I will always thank him for this, because I just felt like a kid again watching it, and I still do, if I'm totally honest. Even though I know everything that's going to happen, I know certain scenes word for word, like, I still just turn into an 8-year-old, even though when this came out I was 18? Yeah. So it makes me feel 10 years younger than from when I first watched it, which doesn't sound that impressive in the grand scheme of things, but, you know, that's just how I feel. So even though they're a bit of a cliche choice and I didn't go for anything weird like Closing Time or Night Terrors or something, even though I do actually quite like Night Terrors, they are my 3 favourite Matt Smith stories. In the comments below though, guys, let me know what you think. What are your top 3 favourite Matt Smith stories? Whatever they are, let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description, as always. So if you'd follow me on any of those things, then I'd absolutely love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye. Who is this character, and trying to establish the world similar to something. Oh my god, I can't talk.